Let's bring in NewsNation political contributor and conservative commentator, Dr. Lauren Wright, and Democratic strategist and former senior aide for Bernie Sanders' presidential campaigns, Joe Caiazzo. Welcome to both of you. And Lauren, happy Mother's Day. I heard Matilda has a brand new baby brother, so we just wanted to congratulate you, of course.
Oh, thank you, Hannah. And you're the hardest working mom in show business, so I appreciate that coming from you.
Takes one to know one, my friend. I am going to start with you, Lauren. Americans hopeful a trade deal will be stuck. Look, we're optimistic. I'm certainly more optimistic after listening to Judy. But we know deals don't happen in just 2 days. What should the messaging be for business and consumers who are watching this play out back here in the U.S.?
Well, it's a really tough messaging task. I mean, Trump is trying to convey a steady hand, but some of the damage is already baked in here, and we probably haven't even started to realize some of the impacts of what's in effect a trade embargo with China. Now, it's true that China has felt a lot of pain as a result of this. They've implemented massive stimulus plans to try to shore up their own economy. But it will hurt us too if there's not some kind of really optimistic, material, tangible news that comes out of this. But it does seem there were 8 hours of talks. Xi sent his top 2 officials from both the economic and security teams. And so they're real talks. I just, like everyone else, I'm not sure what the results will be.
Joe, the president floated a number on Friday, that number 80%. That is not the relief that most Americans are looking for when it comes to this added tax on China, on goods from China. What do you see coming out of these talks happening as we speak?
Look, I fully expect the Trump administration to spin this as some sort of a win, but I think it's really important to remember that the reason why we're in this situation is because of the haphazard economic policy put in place by the Trump administration. We saw this in the first Trump administration, and we're seeing it again. Basically, the formula is hyperbolized rhetoric, create an enemy, create a problem, go to the table to try to solve it, and then when it can't be solved, continue to vilify that enemy. And the end result is the working people of this country just have to deal with higher priced goods.
Joe, let me stick with you for a sec. Trump is heading to the Middle East this week for his first trip to the region, at least for his second term. It's happening while his administration is working on deals with Israel and Hamas, India and Pakistan, Ukraine and Russia, as well as negotiating nuclear arms with Iran and Saudi Arabia. From where you sit, Joe, is Trump too focused abroad instead of focusing on what's going here at home?
History tells us that when presidents' poll numbers dip domestically, they hit the road. You've always seen poll numbers rise as presidents continue to go and push a pretty aggressive foreign affairs strategy. However, the pillars of the Trump doctrine largely are to go and promise more than you can go and deliver, and only go to those major nations where you have business dealings. Look, when it comes down to it, the Trump administration is singularly focused on this vanity project for the president and to continue to go and enrich some of his friends and his family members. One thing I would note that's really important is to look at the map as to where Trump is going, look at those leaders who he's going and engaging with, and overlay that with the spots around the world where his family and members of his cabinet have business interests.
Lauren, what's your take?
I mean, I've been really critical of the Trump family for getting way too close to stepping over the line of what's appropriate vis-a-vis personal business interests and international affairs. But there is a lot of good that can be done here. I mean, Trump is trying to get Saudi Arabia to join the Abraham Accords. That would be a tremendous accomplishment. Biden and Democrats have shredded those Abraham Accords as trivial, non-important factors, but then Biden went ahead and used the framework to try to do even more good in the Middle East. And it's also, a pretty direct, on its face challenge to Iran and the extremists in the Middle East, because they don't want any of this to be going on. And from a public opinion standpoint, it's still good to engage and try to get some things done from the American public.
Staying overseas, we're seeing renewed signs of optimism when it comes to getting Ukraine and Russia to the negotiating table. We've talked about this war has been ongoing for 3 years. Lauren, if Putin does agree to a 30-day ceasefire, how much credit should President Trump get?
Well, he should get some credit for trying to end the war, but Putin deserves all the blame for starting it. And I, like most international affairs experts, don't trust his word. That's why we're in this situation in the first place, is because he invaded a sovereign nation. And so it is important to hold his feet to the fire at the same time as Ukraine is bleeding resources and citizens and very much wants to stay engaged because they want to put a stop to the suffering too.
We're seeing an early version of the House GOP's tax plan that will be making its way through Congress this week. This plan could add $5 trillion to the deficit. Lauren, I'm going to ask you this question, and Joe, I'll go to you next. How does Trump sell this bill to the 32 House Republicans who are calling for it to be genuinely fiscally responsible, as well as many Americans? How do you do that when you're adding $5 trillion to our deficit?
Probably with some carrots and some sticks. He wants them to be on board, and he can threaten them with some potential electoral costs and yanking some public support from them. But look, tax cuts in any form have always been pretty popular for Republicans as a policy plank. And so if he sticks to reminding Republicans what's in this bill that they're always trying to accomplish, I do think he'll be successful in getting his own people on board. I don't think he'll be successful at getting any Democrats to join.
Joe, the final details of the plan will likely be released tomorrow on Monday. If not enough Republicans get on board, how can Democrats use this to their advantage?
I think the number one place where Democrats have got to stick is on the notion that these cuts are going to be paired with cuts to major programs that millions of Americans across the country depend on. We've seen in the House budget, we've seen cuts to Medicaid, we've seen cuts to Social Security, and Social Security and Medicaid are two of the most important programs in this country. Millions of people from coast to coast depend on those. There is a direct link in these proposed tax cuts and cuts to programs that people desperately need.
And we know those are two programs that are certainly the sticking points when it comes to negotiating this budget plan, this big, beautiful plan. Lauren Wright, Joe Caiazzo, thank you so much.